At 5:32, and at this time we'll do public appearances for non-agenda items. It appears there is none. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from September 16th. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
There is by Elder Scott. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Any changes? We got a second also, a second. And all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We're on item number 4, which is North Fish Hatchery Road reconstruction update from the department.
So there should have been a couple of pictures in your packet that kind of give a little information. But just kind of to start off, one of the big things that we're doing is we're breaking it into, it's gonna be a 2-year construction project. Just a lot of feedback from the contractors that it was really a tight timetable to try to get it all done in 1 year, and I think they felt they're taking a lot of risk to try to get that accomplished. And then on top of that, it would require very, very much likely a lot of overtime to get that done, so that added to the cost as well. So it looks like, if you have that diagram, we're basically gonna go from High Ridge Trail and Breckenridge Court to the north in the first year, that'd be 2020, and then from there to the south in 2021. A couple other things just to kind of bring you up to speed that we're looking at to try to get costs down. We talked about recycling the concrete pavement, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion. The county was involved of allowing that recycled pavement, but it'll only be in the lower level. It won't be in the whole base level. And then just making sure that it's still got to meet all of our specifications. So we'll keep an eye on it to make sure it meets the specifications. We're gonna have a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting, again, to try to get some contractor feedback before we go to bid. So if there's something else that they see that we could do, we can still take that into consideration. We're not gonna be, unfortunately, last time when we bid this, it was on the same day as a DOT bid letting. And I think that, people didn't know whether they were gonna get that bid or not, so that might have caused some hesitation among some bidders. So we're not in direct competition this time with a DOT bid letting, which I think will be a positive impact. We're gonna consider allowing GPS surveying for staking as long as they can meet our horizontal and vertical tolerances. That was another comment from contractors. And then we're gonna use bid alternates for a few items that are not, necessarily essential, but we want them as part of the project. One thing was we marked some bike crossings in green, and that had a very high price on it. If we bid it as an alternate, then we still could take that out. We could do it later, as a separate contract or something else. It might not be essential to the project, but at least we could evaluate those items. And there's several others. There's some temporary lighting that we had in there that we could evaluate separately, and some conduits for future fiber installations. So if the cost seemed unreasonable, we could evaluate those and decide whether to go forward or not. It just gives us some more options. And then we're gonna think about having the city maybe look for a field office space. The field office had a very high item on it, and if there's some rentable space, we maybe could provide that space and again, have some cost savings. And then the other changes, we're looking at signals for East Traceway with the potential of developing on that side, and it just made sense to include it as part of this project. So those are really the big things. We're negotiating for parcels. There's 52 parcels that need to be negotiated for. About 23 of them have offers made. About 18 of them have appraisals ordered. There's a few utility easements that are released. So that's moving along. It's taking some time. The right-of-way acquisition phase is taking some time. I talked to Bill a little bit about it. A few parcels are taking longer than we'd like, but we are starting to get a lot of offers in, and you'll see them coming through. Then proposed schedule, we're gonna put it up on Quest October 28th, so this month, the 28th. The ads will go in obviously on the 28th and the 4th, so the 20th of this month, 4th of November. The pre-bid meeting's on the 4th. We'll have the bid opening on the 17th of November. A recommendation for Common Council by the 19th. It'll get referred out on the 26th, Board of Public Works on the 2nd of December, and Finance and Common Council approval hopefully December 10th. It's kind of the schedule that we're looking at right now, if things go well. If there's any hiccups, that could change, but, so that's kind of an update in a nutshell. If you have any other questions, or I can try to answer.
Is that Traceway extension, I'm looking at page 4 of the packet here, is that for future development, just to kind of get that intersection all squared away?
It is, and there's a potential, someone's looking at that right now.
Okay.
As we speak, so yeah.
Okay, because the diagram kind of looks like it's it goes a few feet and then just kind of dies off, but I was wondering, is that supposed to be like an entrance into a parking area or a
It would be
loading area?
a
something
road
like that?
extension, so it'd be actually Traceway extending to the east.
To where, I get, yeah.
Right now, it'll probably be just a hammerhead, but eventually, so initially, it's probably gonna just go in a ways and be to a parking area for their
Okay.
development.
Okay.
But the idea is eventually it could carry on and maybe head up towards Post Road.
Okay, and I'm just kind of like looking at what the possible outlets for something like that could even be.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it would have to go to the north.
okay.
The bid, is that gonna be for the whole 2-year project?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
We're hoping for lower bids this time.
yes,
That's a goal.
for sure, that's a goal. That's, most of what we're trying to do is to try to accomplish that.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
The pavement, so you'd be talking about grinding up the asphalt and using that as bed? Or are we talking about
It's-
breaking concrete up and using that? as
It's the
bag?
concrete.
Okay,
It's the concrete we're looking at reusing, and the big comment was there's not a lot of sources for aggregate in the area, so there's not a lot of competition for that. And what we heard was the aggregate, when we saw it in the pricing, the aggregate was pretty high the price. Plus, they've got to get rid of all that concrete, so this allows them not to have to haul it away.
that's pretty typical on, interstate work that they do that. And granted, it's a monstrous machine and a lot of labor, more labor to break it up.
Yep.
The second question, excuse my ignorance, but, so surveying, now it's basically the transit and stake, they aren't using the GPS, in the business I'm working in, it's all done with that now.
Yep, so you're talking like a total station?
Yeah,
So we're talking about, for some staking, if they can meet our tolerance with a GPS unit, it's just one man, it's a rod that sends things up to the satellite.
Yep.
If you hold on that point for a long enough period of time, usually you can meet the tolerance.
Okay.
It's usually if you just do a quick one, then vertically you can't meet that tolerance.
I'm with you, Mike.
And there's certain things that we really have to be tight on, like if we're doing a bridge with abutments and things like that.
Okay.
But, if our tolerance is a couple hundredths and they can meet it with the GPS equipment, then we're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, report from the department. Any other reports?
Yeah, a couple things. There's a culvert that was damaged during flooding, probably last spring. We're replacing that right now. It's at the end of Fitchburg, all the way down by M. Just so you know, we've got
Yeah, I know
that piece of Fitchburg closed right now because we're replacing that culvert. Other than that, Wayland Road's complete. The Fitchburg Nesbit Roundabout is open, and the flooding under the overpasses is dissipated, so it's fully open. They still have landscaping. They probably have 3 or 4 weeks worth of work out there to get landscaping and a few other lighting, permanent lighting and things like that done. Other projects, Central Park Place extension, they're moving on that. So they're, yep, so, it looks different with the trees gone right at the entrance, so they hope to, if they can keep dry weather, get some base down and maybe even pour curb and gutter on just the railroad crossing portion, maybe this week or early next. Hillside Heights Pond is complete, it's down to punch list, for that, so.
When I first started this, we had people in from Hillside Heights, flooding, gentleman who was concerned about his house, and sound like it's all resolved. Close.
Both ponds are pretty full right now, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, but it's good that we have that extra capacity because the alternative, without that capacity wouldn't have been good.
Right.
Mckee Road, again, we had an open house last week, Thursday, to talk with landowners, kind of update them what's going on with the plans. I know Bill's gonna go out and mark some slopes so that they know where the road is and what trees might be affected and kind of clarify some of those things. We are in process of, negotiating a hire for the Sub-Zero Stoner Area Regional Stormwater Study. So that's moving forward. I think those are the big things that I can think of, unless you guys have, everything else is kind of, Fahey Fields is under construction, Fahey Glen is under construction. They opened Woods Hollow Road, that was closed for a couple weeks, that's open now. So things are progressing pretty well.
Any questions?
When do you, what do you have a projected date for the stop of accepting pavement and that type of work?
There is an official date, I think it's October 15th for surface, but I'd have to look it up in our specs to be totally honest with you. But I know there's a date in our development agreements and some of the specifications that we don't allow surface to be paved after. I can follow up and get that back to you for sure.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to review items. Any questions on the utility August P-card purchases or September checks?
I do, if you give me a minute. to put
Okay.
it down. To make it bigger, 'cause my eyes aren't. And it was the, let's see, what page is this here? Page 6. Page 6, and there's the date 9/20/2019, and there were a couple on here, Mike. First one was, there's some through Baker Tilly, additional license. Do you know what license that would be? I'm assuming it's for some sort of software, but I don't know.
That is a good question, because it looks like it has 1,000 in and then 1,000
out, yeah,
back
so
off.
same thing with the public service, so you could check on that. And then the ones to Payne and Dole in here, the last four, are those associated with a project? I see, Seawater Utility Road with 7.1% contingency, sanitary sewer road with, are those associated with a particular project? See, each one shows some contingency on here. Or is this a general, I don't know if these are repairs that we had to do, or?
I think they're part of the resurfacing project, but they
Okay.
probably are specific, like if they were caused by a utility repair or
Okay.
something like that.
So they're part of resurfacing, that's all I needed to know.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's all I had.
And I think the other ones were maybe because there was a public service commission hearing.
Okay,
It just seems to me like that's what that would be. It might be a fee for that.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, then we'll move on to the agenda items, 7A. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R167-19. Is there a second?
Second.
This is approving MG&E services for 2019 uptown improvements. And could we get an explanation?
Sure, this is for the street lighting that'll go in up as part of the Central Park Place Uptown Improvements Project. The majority of this work is still gonna be MG&E facilities. So I don't know if you saw in there that we anticipate less than $25,000 would be, we provide the poles and then they would tip them up and wire the poles themselves. So it's just to provide the streetlights for that project, the railroad crossing and the connections.
Any questions? Okay. I'm just taking notes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so we have, we contract with MG&E to perform the maintenance on these? Is that still the case?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah, and they actually bill us time and material, so it could be less than this.
Okay.
This is based on their estimate, so.
I won't count on less, but,
I
okay.
know.
Okay. All, is there any more questions? Okay, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed may say nay. That passes. Motion to approve Resolution R 165-19, amending the 2019 General Fund Budget Traffic Speed Counters. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
There's a second at this time. And can we get an explanation?
Sure. What we were looking at, we were gonna get 2 new traffic, speed and counters in the next year's budget cycle. And Missy suggested, because there wasn't a public works director for a number of months, that there would be a little bit of money in that wage account, that, and there was a lot of pressure on that budget, that we could maybe take them out of that budget, do a budget amendment, use some of that money to fund those. And part of the need is, there's just a lot of requests coming in for speed and traffic volume studies to see what we have as far as what we could do to try to reduce some of the traffic concerns in neighborhoods. So there's been a lot of requests. The other nice thing about these is, the current ones we have, you have to put the tubes down across the road, so that means we've got staff actually walking across the road. These are kind of like a radar, so they get mounted in the center island or on the side, and they shoot out to the road, so they'll go in quicker. And then it's all cloud-based, so we can access the information from the office. We don't have to go out and download it to get it, so there should be some real good time savings as well, besides the safety and just the use.
Is there licensed software that we have to purchase in order to get the data?
That is part of this cost that's in there, so yes, there is.
So the traffic and speed, is that like when you run over the
Those little black tubes.
black tubes? Yeah, okay.
Are these the ones the police put out?
I don't think they have these, no.
Okay.
I think, so we've done it on Leopold, or not Leopold, Longford and Leopold. When we would try to get those speed bumps in, I saw they put one down.
Right.
And they just, they can tell how fast people are going and what the traffic count is.
Yep,
So, and they're using the money from the absence of a public works director, so.
that's correct, that's the budget amendment.
So if, just out of curiosity, if this wasn't done, what would happen to that funding? Would that be able to go back into a general fund for other things, or?
I don't know what you guys do with your monies at the end of the budget year. I would think that it,
Well, right now, we're doing the budget for 2020, and we're about only 4,000 under the levy, so maybe there'd be more, maybe it rolls over, that's what I have to assume, it rolls over.
yeah, I don't know. She just thought it would be good to try to take some pressure off of that budget. And these were an item that we really felt we really needed, but they were small enough that we could fit it into that budget transfer. So I think you have to request to get the money to roll over, and then you guys would have to approve rolling it over. Otherwise, I would assume it just goes back to the general account.
Yep. Okay, any questions, comments? We're going to a vote. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed may say nay. It passes. And then we'll do a motion to approve Resolution R 168-19, approving the Wisconsin and Southern Railroad services for the 2019 Uptown improvements. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Alder Scott. And we'll hear from our director on this as well.
Okay, this is for the portion that the railroad actually does to the tracks and on their right-of-way, for the improvement for the railroad crossing. So this is actually work that they hire a contractor to do, and then we have to pay them for that work, for their tracks themselves.
Okay. Any questions?
For work that was supposed to be done this year?
This is the work that has to be done by the end of October, so, yeah.
So is the majority of this price for the signals and the crossing signals?
I can tell you,
I'm looking,
the signals is about 220,000
also
of
the
it.
tree,
And then there's some tree removal, and then some actual grading work under the tracks, and then because they gotta put, these concrete panels under the track itself, that's about 100 and some thousand.
so was this refurbishing of the tracks? I've lost track on this one a little bit, the city,
There wasn't a
We bought-
crossing there.
there was not.
This
Okay.
is a new crossing, so,
That's-
so they've gotta cut the track out, take it out.
I'm with you.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? comments? If none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 And those opposed may say nay. And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. That passes.
And that was funded by TIF too, just so you guys know.
Okay.
The railroad portion is TIF funded.
Okay. And now we're on to announcements. The first announcement is that the next Board of Public Works meeting will take place on October 21st at 5:30. Same place, same time, same station, so please join us. Is there any other announcements? Yes, sir.
I would just like to, we add an agenda item for just a general discussion of Fitch Rona Road flooding,
Okay,
just a general discussion.
on Fitchburg Road flooding for the next
For next meeting.
board meeting. Okay. We'll ask the director to include that on the next agenda.
I was just gonna say, tonight at 6:30, the first, I think it's the first one of the strategic plan meetings, neighborhood meetings will be on King James Way at Redeemer City Church.
Okay. Any other announcements? If there are none, then I'll make a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Any opposed to adjournment? No? Ayes have it. We're in adjournment. Thank you.